Okay, seems in this clip I decided to start making some actual story progress instead of just grinding for cash and experience points. Just a quick check here to see if I have everything I might need for the next major dungeon. Then probably not so quick check online for a map that tells me where said dungeon actually is. We may not have absolutely everything we could possibly get from the armor shop, but I'd say we've certainly got a good amount of their stock. It's probably safe to say that the next dungeon the monsters are probably going to end up throwing around a lot of lightning, though that sort of assumption might be a bit iffy. After all, it wouldn't be the first time we've gone to a store and the enemy has ignored what that store sold. We certainly gained quite a bit of especially good metal gear before ending up in the magnetic cave. That was certainly its own variety of miserable. And that certainly made me very worried about the metric tons of bullshit that would be in our future in this game. Hold on, it's been a bit since we were told what would unlock this door. Not that there's any chance we could have sold it or something, it just that it didn't go immediately to this place like I was probably meant to the moment we gained this necklace. Okay, looks pretty similar in some ways to the magnetic cave earlier on, though that probably has more to do with the whole cave tile set thing than anything that should really be all that worrying. Though I suppose seeing a vampire lady and a bunch of vampire bats is supposed to be a little intimidating the instant we walk in here. At the very least, we don't typically see this many enemies at once in this game. Hard to feel all that scared, though, when the damage numbers are doing look so minor at the moment. Okay, they can certainly take a beating. Definitely several steps above the things we were grinding against in the previous clip. I'm really starting to get the feeling that the Bloodlance is outright lying about its damage potential whenever we see it in the equipment screen. Granted, I can understand that on some level you don't want something that lets you gain more health with every strike being too effective. That's the sort of thing that can break any game's balance. Oh, come on! I can't think of any other weapon in this or any other Final Fantasy game that ended up feeling this detrimental to me. Not even the incredibly annoying way that this game handles arrows. When we're in the equipment screen, the game implies that the Bloodlance is something especially strong. The best possible thing we can have Kain using for a good chunk of this game. And as much as I'm tempted to remove that Bloodlance altogether, there are still just enough moments where it hits around as hard as Cecile and Edgewood that removing it just wouldn't feel right. Again, this game doesn't make such a big deal of elemental weaknesses and resistances as something like Pokemon or Shin Megami Tensei, so you just don't adjust as much. Son of a bitch. Of course I sold all the other possible lances we could have switched to, because I felt that the Bloodlance was hitting hard enough to... Why the hell am I so stubborn sticking with this weapon when we've been having problems with it for several clips now? And lovely. Now we've got a door that can take one of us out in a single glance. Let me repeat. Rydia has been easily taken out by a door. No matter how much grinding you do, that's still gonna be an issue as far as I can tell. There is no real way to prevent such a one-hit kill move from doing its thing. You have to hope you get lucky and either the monster with a one-hit kill move doesn't choose to do it before you manage to kill it, or that when it tries it somehow manages to miss. I suppose Rosa might have a spell that might increase the chances of a miss or something, but she really isn't given much time to do so. Oh, you've gotta be kidding me. How was I supposed to know that something that would just spawn in would be able to absorb the spell I had Rydia prepared before the damn thing even spawned in? Yet despite how bullshit things are right now, it's hard to deny that it still doesn't feel as frustrating to deal with as the Magnetic Cave earlier on. It's still making me feel like we're painfully underleveled and under-equipped for being in here, though. Especially frustrating since it's not like the equipment we haven't bought yet would increase our stats by all that much. This difficulty spike really kind of feels like it came out of nowhere. Or at least it feels like it did considering the stuff we had to fight through to get into the dungeon. And it's mostly just the game increasing the stats of the enemies we're dealing with and shifting things so a few attack types are more detrimental than they should be. It's nothing especially astounding or engaging, just a slight wake-up call for anyone who is starting to feel complacent for the sake of reminding people that there's still a good amount of game left to go. It can be all too easy to forget that there are more challenges ahead after you've conquered enough in the past. As much as I appreciate the increase in Edge's attack, I'd much prefer if we could improve his defense. Again, he's about as fragile as Rydia, but he's a frontline fighter, not a mage. Rydia is about as close to being a glass cannon as you can get around here. I just have this kind of annoying tendency to not let her use her full power. We want her to have as much stamina as possible for long dungeons. But Edge, he does not have that excuse. He doesn't have any attacks that come across as an outright cannon. I suppose maybe if I use throw, but with standard attacks, he hits about as hard as Cecile, one of our most durable fighters. It's just weird. I just do not get why I have so little respect for Edge, when he's technically a much better combatant than Edward ever could have been. Instead, I just wish narratively that we still had Edward, since he was a better prince who lost everything he cared about. Edge still has a kingdom, still has subjects, and just doesn't seem to give a shit. Bloody hell, it didn't take long for Rydia to go down again. This dungeon is definitely going to be quite draining for us. Hell, just looking at the map for this place, I can't help groaning at the sheer number of doors we're going to have to deal with. Who the hell decided to make doors such a menacing enemy to have to deal with? It sounds like such a joke enemy when I say it out loud. We're struggling against the bloody door. We can't find the mechanism to undo the latch, and it's kicking our ass. Right. So Rydia's elemental attacks are all going to heal the green shimmers. Or at least fire and lightning. Again, it's not like we could cancel her spell when we saw the Shimera tip the field here. So it's a bit annoying that the game is almost encouraging me not to throw spells with Rydia when the enemies are getting this damn durable. We're certainly burning through potions pretty fast in here, though it's no surprise that the regular potions are falling a lot faster than the high potions. After all, I wouldn't want to use any high potions if we have less than 500 health to heal. It just wouldn't be all that efficient. Not that I'm all that efficient a person anyway. If I was, then I'm sure I could have found some way to be even further into the game this many clips in. Should I be relieved that we haven't reached a door yet? or annoyed that I can see at least two of them in this hallway at the moment. Again, it's a bit funny that the doors are so dangerous. Okay, apparently we need to change what arrows Rosa is shooting here, because she ran out of the previous bunch, and for some reason didn't feel the need to say anything about it. Seriously, would it be troublesome for the game to give out some kind of notification that the archer has run out of arrows, so it doesn't come as a surprise? Not that we've been relying on Rosa to cause immense amounts of damage or something, it's just the principle of the matter. Right, and our white mage was taken down near instantly. I suppose there might be a counter for that move, since we can see the door targeting the person before the one-shot knockout blow, but it just happened so fast after the targeting that there's not really much you can do, especially if you don't know the exact gimmick here. Though, maybe I'm just not looking at it from the right angle or something. Anyway, looks like the door has summoned another Chimera. Those certainly seem to be popular around here, don't they? And lovely. Rosa has been knocked out for the second time in the same damn fight. They're not exactly making me feel confident as we fight our way through this dungeon, are they? I'm pretty sure we're at or near the level we were intended to be when we entered this place. There's nothing especially wrong with how we're handling things in each fight. So why do I have the sinking feeling that I'm not as prepared as I should be for whatever is coming next? Because we have been taking a pounding in here. Granted, it's not quite a brutal situation on the same level as that cave where we would need to use float to be above the terrain. A cave that we are probably going to end up revisiting at some point. Still, kind of hard to go through things here mindlessly like some of the other dungeons we fought our way through. Though I suppose that's kind of a good thing. We need to think about how we handle ourselves at this stage of the game. And we seriously, we just fought our way into an empty room? Good God, that is some bullshit dungeon design. And from what I've heard some other people say, that sort of dungeon trick was the sort of thing that made Final Fantasy II even more of a pain in the ass to deal with. As if the fact that the leveling up and getting stronger thing had some cumbersome mechanics wasn't bad enough. The character progression thing I can kind of forgive on some level, even if it worked better on paper than in practice. Hell, when I think about it, Skyrim used something relatively similar to that, so did Fallout 3, which might be part of the reason, actually. I've never been able to just sit down and go through either of those classic games from beginning to end. Though maybe that's also because those games are obscenely long. Yeah. Even if Rosa had a spell that would cancel that attack, I'm pretty sure the door would get its shot off before her defensive measure could come up. Though maybe I just don't have enough confidence in her speed or something. It's not like there's anything in-game to indicate when the enemy's going to get their next turn. We just know when our characters get to move to some degree. Can't really call it a surprise if we know it's coming by now. They've certainly repeated this pattern often enough. And once again, Edge has gone down in this fight. This dungeon is just wearing us down faster than I was expecting it to. I'm definitely getting the feeling we're not going to make it to wherever the crystal is going to be, at least not in this clip. Still, we might as well keep on pushing forward a bit and do what we can to get closer, clearing out a good number of doors on the way there. But at some point, we are going to have to fall back. I just very much doubt that our supplies are going to last us all the way to the end of the dungeon, and then let us just get out. granted, there's a chance that the game could give us a quick portal out of the dungeon at the end of it. The series has occasionally done that for us, but I'd rather not take that risk, especially when this dungeon is pulling the cheap bullshit of giving us entirely empty rooms, with the only reward being the experience points we gained by fighting the door, and whatever it happened to summon for the right to enter said empty rooms. We've also got some ropes that lead to absolutely nowhere. I know the entire point behind dungeons in games like this is to make them be mazes, but did this maze need so many dead ends with no rewards for checking? That sort of thing just discourages exploring. But then who am I to complain about a lack of motivation to really explore when I've been looking at an online map so much? If I looked carefully enough at said map, I'd damn well know there's no actual reward behind the doors. That the only thing we're gaining is repeating fights against a frustrating enemy that can one-hit kill one of our team with a glance. And while I'm pretty sure there's a spell that Rosa has that can counter that, the fact of the matter is she's not the fastest character on her team, and it takes time for her to charge any given spell. And I'm just not convinced that she and I, combined, have the speed to pull it off before the kill spell comes in. I suppose at some point it'll be better if I try and fail rather than just give up on it before the shot even lands, and just resign myself to spending resources getting someone back up. But hey, even if it isn't efficient, we're still making progress around here. We've beaten the door and its Shimra several times, despite the fact that there are probably several ways I could have handled it better. Using a defensive spell from Rosa. Maybe changing what spear that Kain is using. But again, I'm the sort of person who needs to be forced to change things up. And if things work well enough for long enough, it can get a bit tougher for me to change those things in my mind. Why rush to get a defensive spell in place when it's simple to revive anyone who's knocked out, and the door can only do that one-hit kill spell once in a single battle? Why change out the Blood Lance when it absorbs plenty of health from average enemies and rarely comes up against something that would drain it when Kain hits it? It's that awkward thing where the version of me that's going through commentary feels like I could have fought smarter, and the version of me that played through the game felt I was fighting just smart enough. It's just one of those little ways that lets hindsight make you look like an ass. Yeah, just look at how long it took for Rosa to get a shot off you. Right, and once again, we're reviving Rydia. We've certainly gotten used to this song and dance in this dungeon, that's for sure. Well, I'll be damned. The bastard didn't get the chance to summon a Shimra that time. I suppose that's different. And wow, there's actually something to grab in this room. It doesn't make up for the sheer number of empty dead ends, but hey, I'll take what I can get. Still, considering how long we've been pushing in this dungeon and how little progress it feels like we've actually made, this feels like about as good a time as any for me to start falling back. Just need to check one more room, then I'll start fast-forwarding as we return to town and buy the things we've been spending in here. I know the doors are supposed to be a special kind of enemy, but we've faced so many of them that it just doesn't feel special anymore. he's down again. Huh. Holy shit, that's not a Shimra. I've got to admit, that is quite the surprise. Oh god, that dragon is going to counter every attack with a party-wide lightning, isn't it? Yeah, probably should have thrown a high potion onto Rydia before doing that attack. Definitely rather dumb on my part. Ah well, the monster is dead and most of our team is still on their feet. That's gotta be worth something. Again, the regular potions drain a lot faster than the high potions. Technically speaking, this is a more complicated room to go through, but that's mostly because a lot of the other rooms in this dungeon have been absolute garbage. Literally just a small square we can see the totality of the moment we walk in. I suppose the sheer number of hidden paths in this game, that kind of leaves a chance that there could be stuff we don't actually see in there, but I just plain do not have the patience to bother checking. And according to the guide I have open right now, checking would have been a further waste of time anyway. Again, I have no clue why they decided to use a style of dungeon design that helped make Final Fantasy II feel like a frustrating to deal with mess. I was tempted to call it downright unplayable, but I suppose that would have been a bit too harsh. It's not that it's broken to the point that nobody can finish it as intended. I just didn't find it a pleasant enough experience to go through. And on some days, I feel the same way about Final Fantasy VIII. Other days, it feels bearable despite the annoyances I have with the Junction and Magictron system. Still, I certainly managed to get a good distance through Final Fantasy VIII when I was younger before I tapped out, all the way to the third disc, and despite the fact that I was spamming summons in every battle and gave up on junctioning in general out of sheer annoyance. Definitely far further than I ever got in Final Fantasy II. It probably doesn't help that as much as I like some of the world building and some of the characters in Final Fantasy VIII, too many of them kind of feel like throwaways, really. Also, probably doesn't help that the main focus is a romance story, and I just couldn't care all that much about the main girl there. Just the main guy, though. That is an improvement in storytelling compared to the one romance that we've got in this game, where I can't find it in me to care all that much about the guy, the girl, or the other guy who's interested in the same girl and is destined to be heartbroken. The love triangle between Cecile, Rosa, and Kain might have been more acceptable if we got more details about how it all went down. Maybe add more moments of the three bouncing off each other, but no. These people who have known each other since childhood are only allowed to show about as much chemistry as the characters who only just met in this adventure to save the world. Certainly not a long trip from the dungeon to the town, that's for sure, but good god, that dungeon is grueling as all hell. Considering there aren't all that many travelers in the underworld as far as I can tell, it's a bit strange that they have so many beds here, but then I suppose it's better for a town inn to have more beds than they're ever gonna fill, than for them to have conveniently just enough for the player's party to sleep things off. Part of me feels like I might regret selling those shuriken later. Edge can certainly do quite a bit of damage with throwing weapons after all. On the other hand, shurikens are replaceable, and it's not like we're struggling against a boss at the moment. We're struggling on our way to the boss. And the better our defensive gear is, the easier it's going to be to deal with the random encounters. Or at least I'm hoping that's going to be the case. At the very least, removing the ice armor should make the occasional pillar of flame sent our way less annoying. Okay, so they don't sell any alternative kinds of spear here, so I can't get out of the Bloodlance unless I go to an even further back town. Bloody typical.